Whoa. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Thursday. Welcome to another Carvers and Creators, a weekly demonstration and discussion with pumpkin carvers, sculptors, and multi-talented artists from around the world. First, we ask that you give us a like and a follow on the platform you're watching us on. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from, and if you have any questions for the carvers and our special guests. Let's meet the carvers.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. First, he's an artist and sculptor from Boston, Massachusetts. He was a judge on season 3 of Outrageous Pumpkins on the Food Network. It's Paul Dever. Welcome.
Hey, Paulie.
Happy Thursday, everybody. Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday to you as well.
More of it.
Next, he's a multimedia sculpture artist from Tucson, Arizona, and a finalist on Halloween Wars 2019 on the Food Network. Matt Harper. Welcome.
Aloha.
Eddie. Our guest tonight is a makeup and creature effects artist, haunted house effects designer, and specialty prop maker from Southern California. Please welcome Jasper Anderson. Welcome.
Hey. There he is.
So glad you're here.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys.
It's a pleasure. It's our pleasure. My name is Michael Mondragon. I'll be running the show, moderating comments, and chiming in from time to time. Settle down, guys.
Talk to you, sailor.
Hot in here. Hot in here.
Let's check out our sculpts from last week. The subject was tortured undead. Matt,
So good.
nailed it.
Yeah, that's my tortured undead guy. It's a kabocha squash on its side because Paul had one and I was like, I gotta because I had one actually and then one of our favorite things to carve is a butternut squash. I think maybe second would be this if we can't get pumpkins, but it does kind of get chalky. It gets kind of like dry as you carve it, which makes sense. But what I started doing is I tried to make it like 2 tones and it didn't really effectively work, but I wanted to have his skin like still there. So he's an undead, he's a zombie, but he's got his mouth sewed shut. So he's tortured because of that. So that was my take on it, I guess.
That's a great scope. That's killer. That's a really great depth. Now, I always have the same problem with mine, which is the transition from the skin to the underlying material, right? The green to the yellow or the orange, whatever you want to call it. That's like so uniform. You got a good one. Like you were able to wash away that outside green color in the meat.
Yeah, mine didn't have a really thick green part. It was actually, as soon as I started to peel it, it was gone. It wasn't. Maybe it was an older one. I think you might have had. I think the fresher they are, the more green that's deeper in there. I don't know. I'm no expert.
I'll have to keep one around for a really long time and test that out because usually they fly off the shelf.
That's right.
Yeah, it's awesome though. I love this one.
Thank you.
Yeah, love the nose, the depth of the nose as well. Yeah, that's fantastic.
So good, buddy. So good.
Real good. Paul, this one was. It's also shot differently than you would do as well.
I wish I could shoot it.
But the contortion of the face immediately was like shit, Paul. It looks like he's screaming and he's howling in pain. It's killer. And I actually really do like the changing color, the way it's on the nose. He looks like he's rotting. It's great.
Yeah, that's actually just a picture of me with a filter on it. That's how I felt while doing it. I put a lot of time into certain things that I was like, from this angle, you don't even see it. Like I should have posted different pictures of it, but the green, like I was saying, I couldn't wash away enough of that green skin. But for what it is, it's supposed to be undead. I mean, if it was a nurse, we'd have a problem. But that's supposed to be that. Yeah, I don't know. That is what it is.
I dig it, Paul. I mean, it doesn't sound like it's your favorite. I totally dig it. I think the fact that the color's on the way it is totally makes it even better. If it was one solid color, it'd be fine. But I think it makes it even more look creepy. But, to each his own.
To each his own.
Especially like you're getting so much shades of green in that nose. It looks almost painted.
Shit,
Yeah.
You got me. Shit. Got me. No, I couldn't get rid of it. Honestly, like even the forehead, see how green the forehead is. That was I was trying to get rid of a good amount of it to see if I could blend it in, and then I just kind of was like, it's not going away.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's lived in the forest quite a bit, and he's mossing out. That's what it is.
Well, I also like how the bottom row of teeth, how they the teeth kind of rotate and rotate out on the left side there. I think that's super clever.
Yeah, I was trying to give it that, like the jaw was unhinged, like you had no more meat left on there. It was kind of hanging by
twisted,
a thread.
like twisted.
Yeah, twisted.
Very cool. Very
Son
cool.
of a bitch.
Oh, thanks.
Well, I work in pixels and vectors, so here is my album. These all have become album covers, Jasper, whenever I've taken the prompts. So this is the Tortured Undead. See You in Hell. If anybody can name the band that I included at the bottom, See You in Hell is actually a hint to that band. You may or may not be able to recognize the band.
I don't know. The one between his legs looks like Vinnie Paul, so I'll say Pantera, but it's not because that looks like a woman on the right.
No, it's actually, they're all men.
Oh.
There was a band in the early 80s, probably 81 through like 84, called Grim Reaper. If you ever want to have 4 minutes of bliss, please look up See You in Hell, Grim Reaper. It is probably literally what they took a Spinal Tap from. Like, it's from that video. There's no question. So the first thing I thought of was Tortured Undead with something coming up from hell. So See You in Hell, yes. And if I just turn everybody on to that Grim Reaper song, it's all worth it, right?
Yeah, the layers of the bats make are really good too. Yeah,
it's like Bat Out of Hell, very Meatloaf.
Oh. Thank you. Yeah, these have been fun. I feel like and actually it's kind of spurned some other stuff. Like I want to turn some other stuff that my girlfriend's doing for her nonprofit, turn like all these kind of motivational quotes into like album covers and stuff like that, and sell them for her nonprofit, stuff like that. So
that's cool.
It's all definitely this has been a great challenge to spin the wheel. And speaking of which. Jasper, I'd like to introduce you to the 4th member of Carvers and Creators responsible for our carving subject tonight. It is the Hollow Wheel, the Center Spinner. And as always, Paul will tell you more about it right now.
Hey, happy Thursday. Jasper, thanks for joining us, bud. This is the wheel. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to spin it twice. The first time we spin it will be the character that we have to attempt to carve. Second spin will be the attribute or emotion we have to apply to it. So tonight's choices will be rodent, guest choice, so have one ready. Lady of the Night, skeleton. Punk rock, fantasy animal, classic monster. Aquatic makes the board again. Demon and goblin. Now for our second spin, we'll have exhausted, guest choice once again. Euphoric, robust, painfully happy, furious, jovial, flirty, dismal, or bummed out. There's a lot of choices. And I've got this wheel kind of figured out, so I'm gonna close my eyes and do it this time, so I don't know where it's gonna land. So here we go. The only way we can do it fair.
Yeah.
Rodent.
Ooh,
rodent. Oh Lord.
Why? A euphoric rodent.
A euphoric rodent.
Why did I sound myself up?
Wow. I'm going to write that one down.
This squash just has euphoric rodent written all over it. Damn you, Market Basket.
All right. So
listen, Market Basket, if you're not listening to this show, it's shame on you. Because you need to get better produce immediately, or Paul will, be unhappy.
Yeah. I will cry over and over again weekly.
Euphoric rodent. Oh my goodness.
Oh Lord.
This should be a fun one. I don't even know where to
start. It really is. I think I got an idea though.
Okay. There you go.
Until I screw it up halfway through, in which case I won't have it.
I have no idea. I mean, how does this? I mean, I guess I can go this way and make this kind of a nose, but still.
You did that before with a wolf, right?
Or something. Yeah, crap.
Yeah, and it came out good. Trust your instincts. Unlike me, I run from my instinct.
There you go. So if you're carving or creating with us, we're going to give you 5 minutes to get your tools together, get situated, get your carving oil, as it were. So let's go around. Jasper, are you what are you drinking tonight? What is your carving oil of choice here?
I just have a glass of water.
A glass of water. Well done, sir.
Classic.
It's very hydrating. I hear water.
Very much in California.
Maybe better for you. I don't know. Somehow. That's good.
Perfect. Matt, what do you got?
So I have this. I had one before, and I have one left. So I'm just gonna have it. It's a double IPA called Mind Haze.
There you go. Firestone
Wait.
Walker.
Matt with a double IPA.
I don't think I'm gonna like it, but I have it. 8% alcohol, so it's like having 5 beers in one.
All right, Paul, what do you got?
Okay, I'm going with one that I haven't done on the show before, but I have had this beer before, and it's really good. It's out of Boston, Mass. It's called Clown Shoes is the brewery, and it's Space Cake. It's a double IPA, and it's a 9%er.
Oh, geez.
So if I don't make it, I love you all. Got a cool can. They always have great cans over there. Clown Shoes,
Yeah.
Great beer.
Yeah.
Is Clown Shoes part of Harpoon, or somehow they're tied together,
Yes.
right? Somehow.
I believe I believe they're under the umbrella of Harpoon.
as one would say. How about you, Mick?
So Jasper actually went to Chapman University Film School. Am I right on that?
Yeah.
Well, I teach at Chapman University, and I wish I had a Chapman crafted ale, which is actually kind of walking distance from there. But alas, I do not. But I do have one, and actually, I'm a big baseball fan, and I'm a big craft beer fan. So there's one called Brewery X, and this is the Halo IPA, and this is for the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim.
Right down the street.
They're just the Los Angeles Angels now, even though they're in Anaheim. So this is a Anaheim brewery. So Brewery X, the Halo IPA. So I'm a piker. You guys have an 8, 9, and this is alas only a 7. So
Are you a big baby?
79.
I have to moderate the show, so I have to be.
All right.
I have to embarrass myself on the show, apparently.
That's right.
That's a little dog.
So cheers to our creations. Thank you for
Mazel
joining us
tov.
tonight. I'm going to be going through Jasper's wide range of projects that he's worked on so he can talk about it. But tell me, Jasper, how did you get started? You obviously went to film school, but have you been an artist all your life, or how did you get started?
Yeah, I kind of just grew up as a creative kid. My parents were both artistic in their own ways, and so my dad had a full tool set up in the garage, and we always had stacks of construction paper and stuff. And so like my first projects were like things made out of colored paper and tape, and I just kind of would go from there. I mean, I remember I had done out of green construction paper, I cut out like a little triangle and taped it together on the ridge and glued it to my nose with glue stick, and it was a witch nose. And like that was age 7 or something, and then just kind of built from there. I ended up getting into making stuff for Halloween. So I had always had, with my parents' help, fun, cool costumes that we would all kind of get together, and my mom would sew things, my dad would carve something out of wood or foam, and I'd do whatever I could do at young ages. But then they'd kind of keep getting more complicated, and then I got to a point where I started seeing just really cool haunted house stuff that people would do just at their own house in their yards. And so in about middle school, I started making Halloween props and full characters and tombstones and things every year. And then it kind of grew. It was always like, what's the next step that I can take? And then I sort of started, I saw there was a guy who had put up instructions for how to do a talking sculpt with putting a servo inside of a medical model. And so I built that, and then I wanted to make it more than just a skull, because other people have a talking skull. I wanted to do like a Frankenstein monster that could talk. And so I found a book at the library on how to do makeup effects stuff, and it taught you about foam latex and about molds. And so I learned how to sculpt. I sculpted over that skull and then molded it and cast it in foam latex and learned how to do that and painted and doing the mechanics and programming that. And so, you know, it was always just kind of about trying to find the next step and what's like the next way to plus it up and make it more interesting. And so from that, then because I had learned all that mold making stuff from a makeup effects book, then I kind of had this window into like, oh, you could also do this as, you know, stuff to stick on somebody's face, which was always something that I was interested in as a kid. You know, you see these movies like Wizard of Oz, and it's like, how is this, like, this isn't their face, this is something on their face, but how is it something that's moving with them? Right. And so I really liked that, the kind of illusion aspect of it all. And so, you know, from then I kind of, you know, started going into what can you do in makeup effects. And so by the time I got to college, I knew I wanted to do something in film. And because I had been, you know, at the same time in high school, I was also making little short films and things. And so I thought that I would definitely do something in film, and then all of this making stuff would be like the fun hobby thing that I do on the side. And when I was in film school, and then I start kind of seeing what everybody else is doing, and I kind of realized, like, I'm really not a director, I'm not a cinematographer. I like all this stuff, but there are other people who love it to a degree that I am not at that level. And I'm actually really good at making these things and contributing those to people's short films. And so I became kind of the guy who could do the prosthetics for other people's projects. And and then, you know, things just kind of rolled from there, and I ended up pursuing that professionally, I guess, from there.
Wow.
I love the fact that you got into servos and things like that when you were at such a young age. That's, I know I would check out books from the library and stuff that would kind of touch on those topics, and then I realized I just didn't have the mental capacity to do both.
Yeah.
I would lose interest halfway through, being like, oh, I just don't have any of these. I have nothing. So, I mean, that's amazing to go from, like you said, the construction paper phase where you knew you liked art to putting servos inside of masks that you know, creations that you're making and casting. And this
Which is not to say that I was great at any of it, but,
yeah, but
you know, it's all kind of building blocks.
Yeah, and you're curious enough to do it. I think that reminds me of like Ted Haynes. And I know we met with Ted, but when it comes to like what he always talks about is you have to be a, you know, kind of jack of all trades to get work, and you have to be able to do everything. You can't be a one-trick pony in this especially makeup and Hollywood and effects and props and everything else. So I think the benefit of just being a curious learner and always wanting to just, you know, try it yourself is probably, you know, helped you out in spades in the industry, I imagine.
Yeah. Yeah. And I find that there's something that you gain from just having a background of making your own projects, that when it comes to doing something at a shop for somebody else with a team, just having the, you know, even though you weren't doing the same project on your own, but having had to figure everything out yourself, kind of makes it easier to figure out these new projects professionally, because you just kind of have this extra part of your brain working, it seems like.
Yeah.
Sure. I agree.
Oh, look at
Because
that.
you've already done it to an extent in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, and messed up in some way,
Yes,
shape,
no,
or
that's
form.
the key. Sort of like we do on a weekly basis.
Yeah. Every single week. All week.
No, that's how you learn as an artist. You make a ton of mistakes, and if you're given the room to make mistakes, you can be awesome. You know, it's the people that get, you know, that aren't afforded the chance to make enough mistakes to be great. You know, there's a lot of people like that. I know they get out of it because it's tough. It's tough to do this consistently. This was an interesting project too. I just happened to see this, that you posted this recently. Little Easter egg. We talk about Easter eggs in our work too. Like this was very interesting.
Yeah, this was on Muppets Haunted Mansion. I was brought into the art department because I work with puppets and I have an obsession with the Haunted Mansion, and have done a lot of Haunted Mansion related projects on my own and for some official things. And so it was a really cool show to be a part of. But this particular thing was, there was a fellow named Rolly Crump, who was one of the original Imagineers who was working on the early designs for the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland. And
You recently just passed away.
Yeah, he just passed away.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, which is a shame. But really, really interesting guy, really creative guy. And he had all these kind of wild out there ideas that a lot of the other people working on the Haunted Mansion didn't understand and weren't really interested in. But Walt Disney apparently thought it was really cool and wanted to incorporate some of these things in some way. And for the most part, his stuff didn't make it in. But there was a TV special when they were in the design phase on the attraction, where Walt walks through sort of a fake Imagineering laboratory room, and everybody's kind of showing off the different little things that they're pretending to be working on. And one of the things that Rolly holds up is this little coffin clock, which is a model based on a drawing of his. He didn't actually make the model that he's holding up in the thing, but it was very much part of his, persona then, because this is what he had on TV. So there was a group art show over at the Creature Features Gallery when that was in Burbank, which I don't know if any of you guys ever had a chance to check out. It was a really cool place. And it was all based on his artwork. And so I made a little replica of that coffin clock and met him there, and he signed the back of it for me.
Perfect.
And I was able to keep that. And so when we were doing Muppets Haunted Mansion, I said, look, we have to get this in there somehow. It's not in the real ride, and it would be awesome to get it somehow into ours. And we snuck it in. It's on the fireplace mantle in the foyer in the background. So it's just kind of, my little Easter egg. And if you look really close, you can kind of make it out, but I was pleased to get it in there.
Very cool.
Wow, and he signed it. I mean, that thing's a treasure now. I mean, holy crap. Did you have to try to find? I mean, I imagine the designs that you just kind of eyeball it and figure it out from that point, related to scale and how it looked in the original picture.
Yeah, because if you go to the other picture, there's the close up of his hand holding it. So I kind of just went from that and figured, roughly like this. And I think I didn't get the proportions exact, but
yeah, I get you.
Who's checking?
That's pretty darn close.
Wow,
it
was fun.
That's cool.
And again, it's your interpretation of that work as well. So I mean, that makes it even more special, right?
Yeah. And I made an extra copy of the little clock face with the skull and sent that to him. So
That's cool.
Super cool. And this was one that well, we saw this at Monsterpalooza.
Mm-hmm.
You were involved with this as well?
Yeah, this was the
Yeah,
giant
Ted.
Frankenstein model kit with Ted Haynes and Tom Woodruff, and Ted's wife Ilona was also part of it, along with a couple other people who came in and out. But these were the giant Testors paint jars that was all Ted's idea. He said, look, it's one thing to do the big model kit, but it'd be super cool to do it as if it was you're standing on the table of the kid who's building it with all these accessories. So I did a 3D model of a bottle, and then Ted got that. He 3D printed the cap, and then or what was the guy's name? Gus was the guy who foam milled the big pieces.
Oh yeah,
and
the
then,
pieces, body pieces. Yeah.
Yeah, and so he also milled these bottle shapes as halves so that I could do vacuforms over them, and so it's a clear outer and then an inner layer, and then the inner layer is fused together and painted to look like the paint filling the cavity, and then the outer layer glued around it.
Okay.
Wow.
And Ilona did all the paint and all the graphics, which is really what makes it, I think. But
Yeah, and the
they were
paint,
super fun.
it's what I'm blown away by her painting too, because it looks like on the top. I mean, the person who this little kid who painted it, he got paint on his fingers, then screwed it back on, and then and then there's almost like tool marks, like where it was stuck.
Yeah.
So anyway, just that keen eye to detail is just remarkable. Like it's about this big as a frisbee. It's massive. So it's really cool.
Yeah, the paint in the grooves makes it look like it's been used. I mean, it's just that little touch. I think if it was too perfect, it wouldn't have had that feel. And it's like these are that what makes it super hyper realistic.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's fantastic.
Yeah. She's a really good painter and just a really good overall artist.
Yeah.
Yes.
Agreed.
Now, I love that. To see it in person was one thing, but when you photograph it, it looks so much like the original size kit that you need something proportionate to tell how big the thing is.
Yeah.
Which was great, but also really frustrating to try to take pictures of it. And you're like, no, guys, you don't understand. It's big. It was a lot of work to do this, but the pictures just kind of look like, yeah, all right.
Right.
Like, yeah, I had the same kit as a kid. I get it. Yeah, it was tough to paint.
Yeah.
No, really. Look.
So you need a house painter to paint this thing.
Right.
Yeah, that was so impressive to see.
It was fun. And those are kits that I really got into over the last few years. I had known about them, but then there was in the 70s there were some Haunted Mansion model kits put out, and those got re-released a few years ago. And I had a friend who was into all kinds of model kits and vintage board games, and he said, "Well, I'm getting one too. Come over, we'll build them together." And he had some other friends, and those guys were building Aurora Monster models, and I was kind of like, "Oh yeah, those are cool." And they're all like, they're not the best sculptures in the world, but they've got just this great character, and they've got that retro thing going for them. And so I just kind of started picking them off one by one and building them and putting a little spin on them. I think of them as these kind of palette cleanser projects, because a lot of the time I'll be doing something really complicated either at work or on my own, and it's nice to just kind of have a little project that you can just pick up and work on for a little bit, and it's not going to take weeks to finish. You could do it in a day or two if you wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're done, and you kind of get to feel the satisfaction of finishing something, but it's low stress and just kind of fun stuff.
Super.
Boy, you should have a butternut squash in your hand right now.
Exactly.
I know.
One of those.
It's very low stress.
Super.
Yeah.
Totally. So Paul and Matt, I know are getting into 3D scanning. Is this one of the 3D scanners?
Yeah. So
Weird one.
I've been playing with 3D scanning for a while, but mostly I had been working with photogrammetry, which is where you just take a whole bunch of pictures of something, and then there's programs that try to stitch that into a 3D model, which is cool, and it can be really accurate, but it's tricky because you don't know how it's going to turn out until it's all the way done, and it doesn't know how to translate the scale of it because it just has no point of reference. It's just a photo. And so a year or two ago, a 3D scanner company reached out to me and just kind of, I think they had seen that I was doing some interesting Halloween stuff, and they said, would you do a Halloween video with one of our scanners? And then that kind of snowballed into now a couple of different scanning companies that have send me their new models as they come out, and so they do a little project with them and show off what they can do.
Oh, that's cool. Wow.
It is cool. And so this was one from a company called 3D Maker Pro, and this scanner is called the Whale. And the project that I did this was, I had started several years ago. I wanted to do a full-size Vincent Price bust. And it's, likenesses are not a fast process for me. So it was something that I had sitting on my work table for a long time, and I'd pull it out and work on it for a while and put it away again. And eventually I put it away for long enough that the summer heat in Los Angeles deformed the clay. What happened? It cracked right across here, and the bottom half just dropped off.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, well, I'll stick it back on. And I kind of blended it back together, and then it did it again. And I shoved it aside, and I thought, I'll deal with that another time. And then I found out that oil clays, which are, the point is that the oil clay doesn't dry out like a water clay does. Eventually they do get rock hard. And so this thing just became completely unworkable, but I kind of kept it because I liked where it was going, but I didn't know what I was going to do with it. And then when this scanner showed up, I said, okay, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to scan that sculpture, and then I can finish it in the computer and print it out. And it ended up being, it's an interesting workflow in that way, because there's certain things that are easier to sculpt in real life. Like there's this perspective thing in the computer that I really struggle with in ZBrush. Is I can get it to where it looks right, and there's kind of like a virtual camera lens happening as you're sculpting. So it's sort of warping things in a way that, based on kind of how a camera lens would see it, and you can adjust the fake focal distance of that lens to kind of make it look one way or another, but it's still not the same as just having it in front of you and being able to see how it actually looks.
Right.
So, like, for example, I've been working on a Bela Lugosi portrait in ZBrush, and like these are all the little prototypes that I've printed out because I need to see what it actually looks like, and every one of these looked great in the computer, and now that I actually have them in person are completely different and wrong. And so I just kind of have kept trying with that. But with this, it was something where I knew that I liked that likeness in real life, and so then to be able to scan it, and then you get most of the detail, and then you can go back and kind of rework it and change things in ZBrush. And then this is actually something that I'm working on. I happen to have brought it with me. I'm working on this guy full size for
oh my goodness. Okay.
Wow.
I go on one of those. Damn it.
Wait, that's clay or that's printed?
This is printed.
What?
So this was on a big resin printer. So it's sort of the face up to the ear is a piece, and then that's a piece, and the chest is a piece, and the base is another piece. But
Oh my God.
it's really a cool place that we've kind of gotten to in terms of all the accessibility of the scanning and sculpting and printing in the computer is really kind of making a lot of interesting things possible now. And that you can do it, from the same sculpture, you can do it tiny like this one here, or you can do it full size. It's cool stuff.
Yeah,
Now,
you're in the thick of it out there, and it's kind of almost the testing kitchen for a lot of that stuff, and knowing that you know, if you want to go have something life size or the size of the Aurora Frankenstein milled, you got a guy. It's like,
yeah,
in little rural parts of America and maybe even Tucson, Arizona, not as easy to find that. So it's like you got a playground there. It's cool.
Yeah.
What's the timeline on something like that gigantic sculpt? Print, sorry.
For printing it. So the printer that I'm using is Frozen Sonic Mega, which is one of the bigger, semi-consumer level resin printers that you can get. And so it does, maybe like 15 inches tall, 12 inches wide, 8 inches deep, something like that. And that full-size piece takes about a little more than 24 hours to do. So this is like 4 days to get all that, which is, a lot faster than it used to be.
Right.
Wow. And how many of these are you going to have at Monsterpalooza? Because there's only so many days left.
Probably just one.
Oh, that's awesome. I can't wait to see it.
Well, there's I remember last week they were talking about the discussion had gone about how they actually shot those old movies where the lens would actually flatten out their face. So you were talking about how optically trying to figure that out as well. So we were actually having that discussion on last week's show. So it's a little bit misleading, the face that you're probably seeing now and to what you're trying to sculpt in real life. So do you find that to be a challenge?
Yeah. And I don't have an answer to it. It's just kind of, I think, trial and error for me at this point. I find that it's easier in person than in the computer.
Yeah.
Just because it's so easy to, get up close and get far away and look over here and look over there. And, the computer doesn't know what you're thinking.
Yeah.
It just kind of does what it thinks.
Have you tried Chat?
Yeah.
Have you tried ChatGPT?
No.
It kind of knows what you're thinking, but just it's not allowed to tell you because it'll have to kill you.
Right. And then you're like, I didn't know I was even thinking that.
Now you're going to jail for it.
Yeah. Oh, look at that.
Yeah, these are fantastic.
Yeah, that was another Aurora blown up. So I always like the skull on this model kit. I thought it'd be fun to have full size. I have a little collection of different old skull models. There was a couple of different model kits in the 60s and 70s that because it was like an accessible plastic skull that you could get, ended up being the reference for like every pulp novel cover and movie artwork. Even in movies, the props that they would make were always on like one of these skulls. And
I feel like I've seen that in a pirate movie about 100 times.
Yeah.
That missing tooth it gave it away.
Yeah.
So good. So good.
Yeah. Fun stuff. And that was another model kit thing. This is just me being extra nerdy. This is a model kit that was sculpted in the 70s but never released. And then at some point, somebody found the original sculptures and started producing it, and now just recently it got a wide release as an actual plastic model kit. But the base was never done. It didn't get to that point originally. So what it shipped with was just kind of a little square thing. And I thought it'd be fun to recreate the actual base from the artwork. This was designed by Dave Cockrum, who was a comic artist, based off of a Metaluna mutant from This Island Earth. And so I thought it'd be fun to do that base up a little more deluxe, like the original design.
So cool.
There's a fella, Todd Powell, who runs a company called Escape Hatch Hobbies, and he makes replacement parts for people who are building these model kits. And so I'll do something like this and then send it to him so that he can offer it to other people who might want to build it.
Oh, that's cool.
Totally. And is this made of resin or?
The base was 3D printed.
Okay.
Yeah.
3D print. Okay.
So I think I did most of it in Fusion 360, which is kind of like an engineering program. And then a lot of times I'll do something where I want like the geometry of that seat console thingy. If I want that geometry to be just so, I'll do the block it out in there, and then I'll bring it into ZBrush and do the little detailing sculpty stuff on top of that.
Gotcha. Oh, and I have the Wolfman, but Paul, you actually have something.
Yeah. That's we're kind of in the 3D printing version of the rabbit hole, but he's also a great sculptor of masks, which I happen to own one.
Oh, look at that.
So you do a lot of work with Trick or Treat, it seems. I see a lot of masks that come out with your name as the artist on them. Now that for you must be like a vacation. Fun. Let's say that must be the best fun of all, right? Just getting to get in there
doing
and
the masks.
Yeah. That is
they're a lot of fun because I mean even something like the Wolfman, where it is supposed to be, you know, a specific character, is there's a fun to the mask version of these things that, you know, different from like a realistic portrait sculpture, where the mask I feel like always has just a little more fun to the styling of it. And it's also it's different in that you have to sculpt it big enough to fit on somebody's head.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a weird trick that you have to do on yourself to sculpt a head that's bigger than a head. It's kind of I had been helping artist named Kazu on, he was doing this double-sized Abraham Lincoln head, which double size is a lot bigger than you would think it is. And I was helping with punching some of the hair on that. And I just remembered like trying to like trick your brain into seeing it at the correct scale, instead of, you know, how close together hairs are on a human head, then to like imagine, well, I guess it's zooming in to where now they're twice as far apart. It's a weird thing, and it's like you kind of, it's almost like those optical illusions where you just kind of have to look at it just right, and then you can kind of snap into it. And if you lose it, then it's hard to get that focus back.
Right.
But it's all fun stuff.
That's so cool.
This was another 3D scan, 3D print. I had done a pirate mask just for fun, and I scanned that and thought it would be fun to do it as a vacuform mask. And so then kind of tweaked it in ZBrush to make it a little more work as a flat back thing, and then printed that full size.
Well, and vacuum form masks were like from, well, I'm quite a bit older than you, but that's the way that they all Halloween costumes used to be those. So going back to that, I'm not sure that people don't even know what those are. So can you explain that a little bit more?
I mean, I guess they were really popular. Like the big companies were Ben Cooper and Collegeville, and they would make these really kind of interesting. I might actually have a fun one that I did, but they would do. I think what they were doing is they were printing on. Well, okay. So the way that vacuum forming works, you've got a positive sculpture, and then you're taking a sheet of plastic, heating it up, and then you drop it down over the sculpture and take a vacuum and suck all the air out so that it actually conforms to that sculpture, and you get a perfect copy of it. Perfect, except that it's, you know, on the outside of it, so it softens all the shapes up a little bit. But what they were doing is they were doing something really interesting where they, I think, were printing the artwork onto the sheet of plastic first and then vacuum forming it down, so that they were kind of getting the whole thing done at once, where just by now it's got a fully finished painted head. And I wish I could figure that out, but these are just basically spray painted.
I mean, totally. I mean, and there's no need for it anymore. So people probably don't do it. But it's like, it's kind of fascinating to think, and that's probably why they don't look like the people that they were trying to make it. I remember like, I'm super gonna date myself right now. I remember like there was like Welcome Back Cotter and like Chips,
Fonzie.
The 18 was a good one.
Yeah, and it kind of looked like Fonzie, but not so much.
And you get the plastic smock that goes with it.
Right, exactly.
Ties in the back. Yeah,
it ripped. It ripped as soon as you tied it in the back.
That's right.
Yes.
And it was always the day or two before Halloween because you had to try it on, and your parents said don't because you're going to rip it, and you tried it on anyway, and you had a rip costume every Halloween.
Yes. Or how about this? If you get too close to a flaming pumpkin, it might go up in flames.
It's vacuum seals to you.
You have a permanent mask.
Yeah, right. Now you really don't look like Fonzie.
Nothing cool about that look.
No.
Speaking of vacuum form, isn't that the way you made the tester bottle, like the outside of that? So those were like on a form, right? And the inside.
Yeah. So that was
3D printed blank or something, or I forget.
Yeah, I'm looking for just like a square that I can hold up. But basically, this thing's kind of squarish. Oops. So, pretend that's the bottle shape. What we did is we split it diagonally so that you could put this weird. So it was putting this triangle shape down and then doing this half and then doing two of those so that you could match them together and make one bottle. I've got a little video up on Instagram that kind of shows what that process is.
It's fascinating.
The vacuum forming is really cool because for one, it's just really fun to watch because it just happens just instantly. But there's a lot of different ways that we end up using that in special effects for like visors, face shields, and armor pieces even.
Right. So plastic, anything that's like, face shields, any like helmets. Absolutely. Okay.
Of course, the face shields are really tricky because it's got to be perfectly clean without any dust on it, because that little tiny piece of dust that lands on the buck, which is your positive piece, once the plastic goes over that, that's going to get amplified because it's got to drape over that. And so there's a few people who are just really, really good at doing that really precise stuff.
So kids that nowadays, instead of going out and getting a 3D printer, they're going to get a vacuum form machine.
I've seen there's some companies that sell them now. Well, there used to be think it was Mattel used to sell a vacuum form machine for kids, and I think it, probably got discontinued because it's a
Burning plastic
hot thing right in the
Because they don't read the instructions where it says don't do a self-portrait as your first test.
yeah.
I remember in shop class, Matt. Matt and I, we went to grade school together, so it was 100 years ago. But do you remember, Matt? There was a vacuum form thing that we used to do. We used to take these letters and we would make like signs out of it. Yeah. And place it down, place the sheet on top, turn on the vacuum form, and it would just suck it all down. And then we paint whatever, the raised letters and stuff like that. Yeah. It's super cool. It was super cool, actually.
Yeah, it's fun.
Definitely. And these are some of the masks as well. I mean,
these are more
cool.
Scooby-Doo.
Oh yeah,
the Scooby-Doo, the green Scooby-Doo zombie was a fun one. That was done as a vacuum form. They've let me do a couple of Scooby-Doo characters as vacuum form masks, and Sam First, who's their graphic designer, did these awesome kind of Ben Cooper style boxes that they go in with a costume that's not, I kind of wanted them to do just the plastic smock, but they do them as these full costumes, so it's like this super deluxe version.
That's cool.
And then that's my my ghost mask I call Glob. That's kind of somewhere between Haunted Mansion and Slimer, sort of.
Yeah, I'm getting both of those vibes, especially Haunted Mansion. He's like one of the guys, a hitchhiker or somebody at the end, or one of those type. I don't know if that's one of those guys, but I totally get that vibe.
Yeah. That was fun. That was one where Justin from Trick or Treat just kind of said, I had done sort of a paper mache version of this character, and he said, I think we should do that as a little more realistic one that we can do as a mask, and that was one of the most fun sculptures that I've done.
Go ahead.
Paper mache is another lost art.
Yeah, well, and my version is kind of a cheater's version too, but what I started doing is it goes back to when I was doing my Halloween display in high school. Is I would take skeletons and I would soak paper towels in house paint and then drape them over, and you kind of get these interesting organic drapey sinewy skin shapes. And then you can kind of, what's nice about it is that it there's a little bit of flex to the paint, so it's not gonna break super easy, but then also the paint is giving you a base color, so you don't need to go in there and paint in all the cracks and everything to get a uniform color on to start with. And then I've kind of done different things with that, and I'll get like this super cheap air dry clay from the craft store and kind of rough out a head and then wrap it in that. And there's an interesting way that you can kind of not, you don't want to force it the way that it lays. You can kind of guide it, but if you guide it too much, then it starts to look weird. But if you kind of get it just right, then it does these really interesting. Yeah.
I was just
that I did with
that. Look at that. Yeah, I can totally see that now. Okay.
Yeah. It's fun, and it's it's really easy, and you just kind of dry brush it and.
Yeah. And there's Haunted Mansion. I got it. So when you talked about Trick or Treat, like intrigued by that job and everything, what's a day in the life at a going to work for Trick or Treat? What's that like?
It's not a job. It's just like a freelance thing. So they'll
okay. So it's by the piece kind of thing. I just was wondering.
So they'll just say, "Are you interested in sculpting this thing for us?" Or once in a while, it'll be something like my pirate. I sculpted that, and they said, "Do you want to add that to our
I
collection.
got you. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're waiting on the phone call any day for this squash line of wearables.
Any day. Yeah, exactly. I'm sitting by the phone.
Well,
with people.
if you scan them, then that makes it a little more of a
Good point.
product possibility.
If you scan them, they will come. Right?
That's right. I read that somewhere.
I think it was on a cereal box. I think that's what I remember.
I love this one because it's based on this character, which is phenomenal.
Yeah, this was fun. This was a group art show over at the Sugarmint Gallery in Pasadena. It was all kind of based on like childhood Halloween memories, and this was a artwork from a album for the Haunted Mansion that was this particular painting. You can kind of trace back a couple of steps into where that design came from, but it's this character of the Hatbox Ghost that was, at the time that they put out the album, was not in the ride. And now it's since been added back in, but it kind of had this like interesting mystique of this character that you could see in some, of the promotional artwork, but was not actually on the ride because they had, I guess, tried it out and it didn't actually work that well. So I thought it would be fun to do that artwork as a vacuform mask for this gallery show. And they actually, Ben Cooper, I think, had actually done a Hatbox Ghost vacuform mask, but it was based on a different version of, there was another album that had different artwork on it that they based theirs on. So this is, if you want nerdy Haunted Mansion facts, I've got
No, there are people out there that are so like into this that they would be like, oh no, that's the other one, that's this, and they would actually know all this stuff. I know a lot of those people.
Yeah,
I think Terry would be one too, right, Paul?
Terry Harden, definitely.
Very hard. Big fan of that.
Yeah. I mean, for me, the artwork in the Haunted Mansion is just kind of just hits this sweet spot of it. I was never into the gory, scary kind of stuff, and that sort of these great caricature sculptures that Blaine Gibson, who was the head sculptor at Imagineering back then, was doing, just really inspired me a lot, and I think just the overall design of the whole thing is very works for me in a very nice way.
It's certainly iconic. Like, yeah, even the color palette. You could see it. Somebody could be wearing a T-shirt with a couple colors, and you're like, "Oh, you look like you should be in the Haunted Mansion."
Yeah.
It's a whole thing. It's beautiful.
And I think so much stuff, has been inspired by it in the, it's been there for 50 years now that it's kind of hard to, I think, probably figure out exactly what started there at this point.
And I think Eddie Murphy's movie version of it is probably the icing on the cake of all of it.
Of course.
That's why I like it in the first place. I've never heard of it before that.
Matt dunking on everybody.
Sorry.
I remember seeing that in the theater, and my grandmother was there, and we left, and she said, "Well, that was a bit far-fetched."
That's great.
I did a similar thing. I actually watched Chinatown in the movie theater, but like it was probably like maybe like 6 or 7 years ago, and I remember I remember walking out of it and someone saying, "Yeah, that wouldn't test well today."
You're definitely in LA when you hear that.
That's for sure. Yeah, that was oof.
These here are some me wearing some of the factory copies of the masks that I've done for Trick or Treat, which I always find it fun to not just do the because what I'll do is I'll sculpt and then mold and cast and paint the prototype, and then they send it off to the factory, and the factory actually produces them. And so
that's cool.
I was like getting the sample back from what they actually are selling, and then you have to put it on.
Of course.
Yeah.
What's the point? You gotta make sure it fits your head.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All that work.
Exactly. And you just happen to have like a cape with the.
No, you know what that is? That's a black dress shirt.
Collar open. Oh my god.
Well done. Well done.
Yeah.
So Paul, I gotta ask you, how's your rat? Because
Rodent can be one of many animals.
I know. I
don't appreciate being pigeonholed there. Too.
No, I guess I'm doing a rat, but
maybe I'm doing a kookaburra. You don't know.
Okay,
I don't even know if a kookaburra is it. I'm going to use the whole squash because it doesn't have a core. But right now, I'm just kind of fleshing out something. I'll probably get a big nose if it is going to be a rat. Could be a beaver. I don't know. I have to literally look up what qualifies as a rodent.
Well, a capybara is a rodent. When I first looked at mine, I'm like, oh, I can make a cat, but they don't have like expressive faces. They just have these like.
Well,
anyway.
I mean, not the ones made of like flesh and fur, but the ones made of butternut squash are funny as hell. They could be whatever they want.
Yeah.
So
I get it.
Well, it just means you wouldn't know that he's euphoric, but he feels it inside.
Right. It's exactly.
Right.
It's more of it's a feeling. It's like
their pupils dilate. That's about it. That's all the emotion you get out of them.
that's it. That's all you're gonna get.
But yeah, I like that I like you chose to do sort of the profile or the skull way, where you.
And so far I gotta get. I'm gonna have some ears. I'll put some ears and maybe like a neck or something. I don't know. He looks evil. I don't know how to make him euphoric, but I'll figure it
out. Most villains are euphoric when they're evil. So I mean, right track.
Thank God for interpretation. That's how I look at it.
It's all in the eye of the beholder.
You're not running into the which end is that the nose is on?
So there's the bottom, so if you look at it like this, it's kind of it sits like that. So I cut the tip of it off, which is right here, and then so this is where the negative space inside would be inside here. So I'm kind of leaving that for the skull, or in where the. So I don't have to cut too deep in there, and thankfully this is all solid. So
nice.
Anyway,
yep, it's all about knowing the depth.
It's all about the rodents, and they're euphoric.
Euphoric rodent. Well, all this talk about Disney, that's why the eyes are kind of shaped like that.
Yeah,
right.
They got me kind of on a cartoon kick. I want to see it. It's completely solid, so I can probably push it. I might have to push it way back so I can get this muzzle kind of out to a point where I just have to glue on a short piece so that perspective-wise, if I had it straight on, you wouldn't tell a seam or anything.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great, actually.
Yeah, it's a lot of digging, though. You know what I mean? How much time am I really putting into this thing?
Yeah.
I'll dig as long as it takes.
There we go. That's right. That's the attitude.
That's the attitude.
That's the Carvers and Creators attitude. Anyway, it's just all the money we. Sorry.
I'll carve as long as I drinks.
Son of a gun.
This is pretty impressive, man, because you must have been a Fraggle Rock fan.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
I love this one.
I really hadn't seen it it was a show that I think I had caught like half of one episode one time, and then I didn't know what it was, and I didn't know what channel, like how I had seen it. So it was just sort of this like weird dream that I had, and then didn't actually find out what the show was until many years later. But
really,
when I was at the Jim Henson's Creature Shop when we were doing the reboot, which came out a year ago, I want to say, and this was actually. We were actually refurbishing the original costume and animatronic head for this guy.
Oh wow!
From the original show.
What does he has a name? That's the king of the thing,
Papa
right?
Gorg.
Pog Gorg. Yeah. And so, but you know, our cameras are better now than they were in the 80s, and so. The crown had to get updated, and so I was able to take that on as a little project myself.
Oh, that's cool.
I did that as a digital sculpt and then printed in a bunch of different pieces and then all glued together and painted. It was fun. I like doing projects where I can kind of take the whole thing and take it all the way through because I don't know, it's just nice to be able to say that's the crown that I made.
Right. It's all you. Yeah.
For Jim Henson.
And most of the time it's, you know, well, there was like 6 of us working on something and you go, well, yeah, I was on this, but then also all these other people did, you know,
right,
important things. So
Have you done anything with the Jim Henson Studios here in LA?
I first was asked over to the Creature Shop on the Dark Crystal reboot, which was a few years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a really cool project because I mean, the character designs are super cool, but then we built about 100 puppets in 6 months here in LA, and then they shipped it over to England, and a bunch more got made over there. But because it was so many characters, they had to have a ton of people, and so there was just so many really fantastic artists working on that show all at once, and you know, costume makers and sculptors and mold makers. I was in the fabrication department on that, and so most of what we were doing was the insides of the puppets, and doing a lot of my time was on the mouths of the Gelfling characters, which was, you know, I sculpted an interior of the mouth with little tongue and everything, so that if they happened to open their mouths really wide, then you wouldn't just see raw foam latex.
Right.
And then, you know, it was a lot of just kind of figuring out how to take the foam latex skins that were coming in and the skulls that were molded off of those sculptures and kind of fitting everything together and getting that mouth set up inside so that you know, make it easy to puppeteer and you don't change the sculpture too much, but you kind of have to change it a little bit sometimes just because of the mechanics of getting somebody's hand inside of there. It was a really cool show. I ended up going over to England for a couple months to work on that, because once they kind of started shooting, I think they realized they needed a lot more background characters than they thought they were going to. And because I had done so many of these Gelfling heads in the LA build, then they sent me over to build the army, and that was
how cool is that?
Yeah, those sets were amazing to walk around. They're small because the characters are small, but they had something. I mean, it was something like 80 sets that they were going to go through over the course of 9 months of shooting, something like that. And so they would have like 8 different sets all going at the same time. And there was this modular forest that they had all these different kind of diamond shaped pieces that they could shift around to create different areas. And then they, you know, dress trees and things and all these different palaces and really cool stuff.
Yeah, wow. I actually work with a guy who did the opening for that series. He did the visual opening where it said
is that with like the animated statues? That's cool.
Yeah. So I mean, it was like probably more of the visual, like with the where it said Dark Crystal at the beginning. It looked like a kind of I don't know how to explain it. The transparent. How would you explain it? Whatever. The opening. He shot it. So he's a super talented, not only sculptor but just like visual effects, like just genius. So I've always wanted to get him on the show, but he's so elusive. Like even though I'm friends with him, I'm just like, can I? You know?
Are you though? You know,
I was going to say that. I don't know.
I don't know. We've actually lost touch. I will definitely say that. But it was like an amazing. So that's awesome that you worked on that and you got to go over there and be a part of all that set making as well.
Yeah, it was super cool.
Yeah.
And then I was able to do a few other projects with them.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah. So you're primarily a freelance guy that's just high in demand, it sounds like, for the...
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just kind of how it works in special effects for the most part is you just kind of bounce around project to project. There's some people who are able to stay at one shop for a long time. But I'm happy with this because I get to experience a lot of different, every shop kind of has its own atmosphere and you learn a lot by seeing different people work. Just kind of things that you wouldn't have thought of on your own. And it's really interesting.
Well, we're all visual learners, so it's got to be like euphoria to see like, oh yes, I wouldn't have approached it like that.
But is it a euphoric rodent?
Is it a euphoric rodent? Exactly.
Speaking of euphoria.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was another Muppets Haunted Mansion thing. There's a floating candelabra in the ride.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And so the Will Arnett's character was going to be holding a candelabra, and then it was going to float at one point. And I sculpted that in the computer, and then printed that out. And the props department finished it, and the electrical guys rigged it up with little LEDs, I think, and then the flames were animated, if I remember correctly. But that was fun.
So
it's nice to do something like that where there is an actual main character holding it in front of the camera.
Yeah, like mine, everybody.
Yeah.
When working on these projects, did you get close to any actual Muppets?
Yes. Yeah.
Did you actually get to put any in your suitcase and take any actual Muppets home?
That'd be great.
I don't want to incriminate myself.
I am so impressed with your skill set. Fantastic. Oh man.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Yeah, that was after we finished Muppets, they set up some of the stuff that we had built at Disneyland for a little tie-in promo.
Oh, cool.
So I got to check that out, which was really cool. And it's nice to make the stuff a thing, but then to have people actually be able to come up and look at the original stuff that you made, it was very cool.
Oh, of course, there's a personal touch to it.
Yeah.
Oh, Peaky.
It was a crystal ball. I just did the stand for that.
Still,
that's scaled. Is that scaled and printed as well?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I kind of tweaked the design a little bit to make it more printable. But I don't think anybody.
Do you have a preference? Because I know you're a great sculptor. Do you enjoy doing clay as much as, or do you enjoy?
I do. A lot of the times the project will just kind of make sense one way or another, and with a show like this, we had 6 weeks to prep for the shoot, and so it made a lot more sense to do digital sculpts and then have it printing, because then it's let the machines do the extra work for you.
Yeah. Okay.
And then stuff like this would then I think this piece I printed it and then gave it to the scene shop, and the scene shop did the painting and assembly on it.
Okay.
But I think in most ways I prefer to do things in the real world physically, but there's just something really great about doing projects in ZBrush where I've got 5 or 10 different sculptures in progress at once, and they're not taking up space.
They're not drying out,
and they're not making clay dust, and I can just pull it out, work on it for a little bit, and put it away, and that's it. And it's not things like the Bela Lugosi that I've been doing for 2 or 3 years now, that same one. And if that was a full-size head, I think I'd be frustrated more than I am.
Yes. I heard a term a long time ago. Pixels are free.
Yeah, totally. Which is, dangerous in its own way, but
the programs are $1,000, but the pixels are free.
Yeah. Which is why I end up, when I finish something and I go to take a picture of it, I'll take like 75 photos to pick one because
right.
I'm not a great photographer, but it's free to take more pictures.
Exactly. Right.
I know. If you looked at my phone, because I take all my photos of my pumpkins with my phone, and you could just scroll up and you'll see like, oh, kids, oh, this, that, the other, a picture of some oysters I ate yesterday, and then you'll see it orange, like 50 pictures, like, oh, that's that week's. And here's the other week. I'll pick like 3 or 2 or anyway. It's anyway, it littered. The whole thing's littered, but they're free.
My girlfriend loves Fozzie Bear, so I had to include this one.
Yeah. This was just such a fun show in that I got to do so many different pieces on it. But this one I made his hat box prop, which was all out of foam for the most part.
That's so cool.
And Fozzie goes
not too complicated, but it's fun that it's Fozzie.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, Fozzie goes really blue in this one. Oh.
Hey yo.
He is a comedian.
Dark humor.
I definitely relate to Fozzie a lot. I say a lot of jokes to my girlfriend that she does not understand at all, does not laugh at. So Fozzie is the dad joke.
Well, I don't know, man. I don't want to get controversial here, but I think Rolf was funnier.
Rolf is pretty amazing.
Rolf was,
Rolf used to shit all over Piggy every chance he got, and it was hilarious.
Rolf was pretty good too.
So would you do the gate on this one? What'd you do on this one?
This was just the plaque, which really they
saw that a couple things.
All I really did was the little creature head on the top. The rest of it was actually a model that Disney provided to us to work from. But that was kind of one of the first promos that they released for the show, was that shot of the plaque. And I was like, oh, that's cool. That was part of what we were doing on this, was taking things from the ride and then putting a little Muppet spin on it. And so there was kind of this fun little game of, what obscure Muppet character can we stick into this, because we couldn't use necessarily the characters that were in the show because when they're twice, so let's use ones that aren't getting featured. And so this was a kind of deep cut Muppet monster that I found that was had a fun face, and so that was a ZBrush sculpt, and then that was milled in foam by the scene shop for the show.
That's so cool.
Is this plaque based on? I know that they had that 33 Club 33. Is that right? What it is?
This is the one. So at the Haunted Mansion ride, this, instead of the numbers, it says the Haunted Mansion, and that's at the front gate. So they wanted to use it, but they wanted to make it like house number. And then it turns out, I didn't know it when we were doing it, but that house number is September 24 is Jim Henson's birthday.
Easter egg.
Super Easter egg. Yes. Yeah, all those like the Disney people that know everything about, they're like, duh.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
He's laughing at you right now, Mickey. You didn't know that? Oh.
Yeah. Well, and that was working on the show and looking at all these obscure Muppets. It was always kind of like, did you know this one has a name? You ever seen this one before? And it was all like, I thought I knew something about the Muppets, but a bunch of us were going, apparently we didn't.
Did you get that a lot? Like people that you don't know the history of it, or?
Well, this was one, not really, because this was kind of peak pandemic. So I was almost exclusively working at home on this one.
Okay.
Okay.
Which was nice to just sit on the couch and
Yeah.
sculpt stuff for a Disney movie. But
You
also
get
kind of weird to, like, you lost the part of it where you could just turn to somebody and say, what do you think of this?
Yeah, right.
And now to ask that, you know, simple question becomes an email and then a whole thing.
Yeah. They don't call you back, and then you're
Yep. Well, that's how this show started.
Yeah.
Yep. There's a lot of stuff born, a lot of artistic things born out of the pandemic. So wasn't all bad, right?
Let's have another one.
Let's do it again.
I don't know which one this will be, but I'm ready for it. But no, I'm not. Never mind.
Yes. Bunsen, Honeydew, and Beaker any day. Thank you, Jim. That's
right.
You nailed it. Love it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They're fun. They were in it as statues.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. They I guess they did up new versions where they were all white.
I love Swedish Chef, Beaker, Bunsen, Honeydew because they had human hands. You know, like anything that had human hands was just like
Right.
they're always doing this, like, you know, like right around their head.
Because it's a second person, right?
Right, it's another guy down below.
I think that was the gag with Swedish Chef, is that a lot of times it'll be, you know, the main puppeteer will be in the head and one of the arms. But then on Swedish Chef, I think the gag was that one guy was in the head and then somebody else was both arms. So then they'd have to kind of keep up with each other. And that became, I think, part of the humor of him.
Right.
Put the chicken in the pot.
It's good. I'm gonna go back and watch that again. I always loved it. I love the opening of that because you got to see all the Muppets, you know, all the characters of it, and you didn't realize there were so many of them.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
there's a lot of fringe characters as well.
Yeah, Darkness is still my favorite. I just love that guy.
Like you see the chickens, the head to set just regular chickens that were there. They were just like
the babies. I love the babies too. The little black-eyed babies that are just, you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's just two dots and a mouth, you know. So cute.
So you'll be at Monsterpalooza this year too, right?
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to seeing you there. That'll be pretty fun.
It will be fun. I did a booth at Son of a few years ago, and then I haven't been back since. So I'm excited to do it again now and bring some new stuff.
Sweet. Oh. Yeah, we'll be set up right next
because
Ted.
Ted's right next to us, so we'll have a big family reunion up there. It'll be great.
Yeah, it'll be a good show. It's always fun to go and see people, and I kind of realized last year that I'd like for people to just come to me for once instead of trying to catch everybody and they've got people talking to them. I'll come back later and go around. It's like,
and you never see them again. Yeah.
Set up my stuff and
yes. Oh, so good. So we haven't gone the full 90. We've gone 85 minutes, but I wanted to give some time and look at what Paul and Matt are doing. So Paul, I like the overbite right there. Nice, well done.
Oh, he's a rodent, right? Well, he's gonna be all doing the tucked in. I can't even do it right now. I'm so stiff. But yeah, he'll. I don't know what I'm gonna do yet. I still got a lot to go on just the profile of the head, and then I signed myself up for a torso.
Oh,
yeah, because I get time. Yeah, so I don't know what without the nose or the ears. I don't know what kind of rodent it's gonna be yet. I'll have to walk away and look at it with fresh eyes. Could be what'd you call him? A kookaburra? No, not a kookaburra. Capuana?
Capybara.
No. Capybara. I was close.
Yeah.
But yeah, he'll definitely I don't know, could be a rat, you know, just doesn't take much, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
Something on there and
there you go. I like that.
It'll make a million, it'll be a huge difference, whatever I do. It could do like a long, that Disney kind of rat nose and the long.
Yeah, or you could go even curling up, you know,
like an elephant rat. Would that be more like?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Good. I like those. Those are cool. Yeah. Perfect. I don't know. The world is my oyster.
Exactly.
That's not a rodent.
That's an oyster. All right, so I'm sticking with the
cool.
I got a kind of rat head looking thing going so far. Trying to get determining some teeth. I might get rid of these and actually put in some big fangs or something. But anyways, I'm thinking big ears or rat ears or something out here. Anyway,
What about elephant ears to go with like the elephant turned up nose rat?
I like that. There is
It had to be a real rodent.
No, it's true. You didn't put that on the wheel. Next time it's going to say real rodent elephant
Yes.
nose. Yeah.
Dictionary definition of.
Yeah, that's.
No, that looks great, man. You block out so fast for the general shape, and it helps that you started with that was the actual shape. But
I know, my God, it could be. I mean,
you got a rat head shaped squash.
It was already there, So
Yeah.
Wow.
Is it chupacabra a rodent? I was going to say
Yes.
it's a jackalope a rodent. Is it, or it's
Yes,
a little
rabbit.
we did a jackalope's already been done though. We did
that's right.
cryptozoology.
Fantasy character. That's right.
Oh, that's right. Okay, that's right.
Yeah. Crypto. Yeah, that's right.
I can't believe that we've already done that.
Dude, we've run the gamut. We have definitely run.
Well, you know what? This could be. It could be. I could do a rabbit, like, because rabbits are rodents, right?
Yeah, the world is now your oyster.
Look at that. Look at that.
Oh my God, it's done.
You nailed it.
I kind of like
Here,
Jim's
get,
idea.
get a screenshot. And I can just get a screenshot. I'll just post this.
Screenshot, put it on Instagram. You're done.
Wash my hands.
Well, the chupacabras, that might be a dog though, right? But I guess for the sake of what we're doing, it could be a rodent.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll
who
just
knows?
call him. Just call him a rodent. Screw it.
Who knows?
You dirty rat.
Well, if you want to see more of Jasper's work, go to his Instagram. I actually have other links to your work, Jasper. I don't know if you use it anymore, but you actually have a Tea Republic. Do you use this?
I threw up a couple of designs last year. I wanted a couple of T-shirts for myself of masks that I had made, and I figured, if anybody wants one, they can get one.
Okay. You can also go to chickenprops.com. Do you use that?
Yeah, that's my little Mr. Chicken's prop shop. That's where I put up my Halloween products that I made for other people. So
There you
some
go.
animatronic kids there.
And then you've been posting a lot on your YouTube page.
Yeah, kind of comes and goes, but right now I've been doing a lot. So
Yeah.
fun.
And it's Jasper J. Anderson. And so definitely check him out there. And his Instagram is on the screen right here, Jasper J. Anderson FX. Guys, any last words before we sign off for this week?
Yeah,
Follow that guy.
Yeah,
Follow that guy. And we'll see him at Monsterpalooza. So we'll see all of you there.
yeah. And if you get the chance, pick up one of these. That's amazing.
That's super. That's so
Look at all that hair. It's fantastic.
Gotta go.
It's one of my favorites. Love it.
So good. So good. So Jasper, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We would definitely love to have you back. And obviously we'll see you at Monsterpalooza in June. And look forward to meeting you. Matt's already met you. So you guys are, yeah.
We're bros.
Yes.
Already.
Super bros. Super bros. So we'll see you next Thursday with another Carvers and Creators. Take care, everyone. Good night.
Good night, guys.
Everybody.